Hi Mike, my name is Ashley Way and I'm going to tell you the devastating story associated with the purchase of what once was a multi-million-dollar property on Lake Rosseau. In 1999, my parents purchased this beautiful cottage on Lake Rosseau. As you can see, it has a two-tiered retaining wall and symmetrical decks, one on each side of the building. The cottage also included a boathouse, and as you can see, it was completely plumb. In 1998, when my parents purchased the cottage, they put it in trust with my brother and myself as trustees. However, in 2003, my father left the family and began a lawsuit against both me and my brother for the cottage property. That litigation continued on for almost a decade, and in 2008, we received notice while we were on holiday. My mother and I were on holiday. We received notice that the retaining wall, which was behind me, had fallen into the lake. After returning home from our holidays, we did some research to find out why the retaining wall had collapsed, and we had discovered that the township of Muskoka Lakes had approved the construction of the cottage without being attached to bedrock. So it wasn't on proper foundation, and so the cottage had actually been pushing against the retaining wall, which caused all of the stones from the retaining wall to tumble into the lake. As you can see, there is a buildup of stone at the bottom of the boathouse from the collapse of the retaining wall back in 2008. Keep in mind, it's now 2012, and we have not been able to fix this problem. You can see rocks in the water preventing us from being able to enter and exit the boathouse. What we were able to do on an emergency basis was have the cottage attached to the bedrock using metal rebars and surrounding cement buttresses. Now this endeavor managed to take up whatever savings we had left arising out of the litigation between my father and the rest of the family. You can also see how the deck that was once on the left side of the building collapsed when the retaining wall fell into the lake, and now all of those doors are barred shut. There was a time when boats would drive by to look at the beautiful yellow cottage, and now they drive by to point fingers at what a disaster this place now is. The way we were able to afford to pay for the taxes on our cottage after my parents' divorce was by renting out the boathouse, but because we also lost the stairs from the cottage that led down to the boathouse, and we'll be able to show you that afterwards. There's no safe pathway down from the cottage to the boathouse for tenants. After the collapse of the retaining wall, we also began to notice that the boathouse was no longer plumb. As you can see, part of our dock is sinking into the lake. In order to build the cottage, the contractors had to blast the rock, and instead of using blast mats, they just blasted the rocks into the lake. And with some research through the township, we discovered that our boathouse was built on top of the blast rock in the water, which is why the piles under the boathouse are now tipsy-turving, and our boathouse is essentially sinking into the lake. You can, as you saw with the corner of the dock. This is what's left of the staircase that leads from the boathouse to the cottage, and if you follow me, you'll see that we lost more than 50% of the stairs leading up the cliff. And we now have jerry-rigged debris, but as I said, it's no safe way to have tenants renting the boathouse if they have to come down this mound of debris. Aside from the practical aspects, we've also lost the beauty of gorgeous landscaping which used to span the property. All sorts of flowers and gardens and rock walls that used to be here and are now covered in weeds. This is the only corner of the cottage that we were not able to properly secure to the bedrock because as they were digging, the septic tank, which is just here, this black pipe here, began to be exposed, and they were worried that that would slide out as well. So they were not able to properly attach this back left corner of the cottage. And you'll also see that there's no land supporting the air conditioning pipe. It's fully exposed, and we don't have air conditioning either anymore as a result. As you can see, this is the right-hand side of the cottage. We're not able to use this deck on the west side anymore as a result of the collapse of the land underneath when the retaining wall fell into the lake. And we don't have access to the hot tub anymore. And similarly as to the other side, the air conditioning cannot be hooked up because there's no land to support it. Also, if you look at the garden, or what once was a garden, you can imagine that was not gravel, it was all grass with little garden sections, but when the contractors came to secure the cottage to the bedrock, this gravel was laid in order for the big trucks to get down to the cottage. That's the garage at the most western point of the property, and we have similar concerns with the garage as we do with the cottage, that it is not properly secured to the bedrock, and that it's that the retaining wall wasn't properly built, because you can see on the most western point of the garage that part of the soil is slipping away from underneath the building as well. So that was the tour of the cottage, and I know that it's easy to look at this and say, oh, you're on the lake and it's still a really big place and it's got to be worth a couple $1 million, but the biggest problem with this property is the stigma that's now attached to it. This property is now known as one that has a lot of trouble, and it makes it unsaleable to have that kind of reputation in a small area such as Muskoka. And beyond that, we have spent all of our money trying to protect this property in the midst of all of this devastation, that we are no longer able to pay for the property taxes. We came very close to losing this house to a power sale because we weren't able to pay the taxes over a 2-year period of time, and we were forced to borrow privately, which is extremely expensive, and we're not able to meet those expenses. So we are walking a very fine line right now, and we're very much at risk of losing this property. And beyond the financial destruction and the destruction to the property, the family has also been torn apart by this whole experience. My brother and I no longer speak to each other. I have not seen my nephew in 2 years, and neither of us speak with our father. So any help that you could provide with your services would, I'm sure, help to improve the issues that relate to the stigma attached to this property, and we'd really appreciate your help.